William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
And good afternoon and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink, and our guests are Katie Sprinkl and Leslie Caitlin McMurray. She's looking at me like, oh, God, no, stop that comparison. It has to do with the story that was in Dallas Voice. We'll talk about it in just a moment. It is Pledge Drive, and we're trying to finish up Pledge Drive this weekend. It might go on another day or two. We're still looking for about $17,399. That was as of Friday, so I'm assuming we've gotten a good chunk of that yesterday and this morning. I know we got some of it this morning.
I need 17.3, I hear.
That's, well, actually, it should be under 17 from
cool.
what I've gotten. So, 972-647-1893 is the number. That's 972-647-1893. Patti, you're going to share a chair with Lerone?
Not a chair, a mic.
Oh, just a mic. Okay. Well, I wasn't sure, because she usually shares the mic with me when we have extra guests in the studio. That's okay. You don't want to be on our side of the table. We won't be insulted, will we, Josh?
No, I don't think we can share a seat.
Sure you could.
No, her girls will push him out of the way.
Yeah, that's true.
And you only hear that.
If you'd like room for your girls, call 972-647-1893. It's Pledge Drive here on KNON on Lambda Weekly, and we'd appreciate your support.
We have a number of new Pledge Drive items, not a number of them, two. I guess that would be the number when I say a number of them. One is a black hoodie with white original 1983 KNON Voice of the People 89.3 design in the front, along with celebrating 35 years of DFW community radio, making us one of the oldest stations still on the air because, well, Leslie, you know this, the format drops from number 1 to number 5. It's gone.
Bye.
Yep. We don't do that. We just keep adding formats.
You're just stubborn.
We are stubborn. And that's one of the things that we love about KNON.
And one of the things about our format is that it's you can't pin it down. We're constantly.
Well, yeah, you can.
It's a moving target.
It is.
Well, that's a good way to describe it, but you can pin it down.
It's a vehicle.
It is careening.
It really is.
Careening.
The program before us is the Jewish Music Hour. After us is the Ethiopian show. We're the gay show, and and today the transgender show. Leslie is looking at me like.
We're the LGBT show.
The LGBT show, yes, we are.
We just stand between the Ethiopians and the Jewish. Just right between.
Well, we do, and before them is gospel, and they used to be our lead-in and our station manager, or we used to say that's because our station manager has a good sense of humor. But you know what? They're the good gospel. They're the ones who believe in no discrimination, because that is one thing that we do value here at KNON, that we're a big mishmash of people and cultures and values and all kinds of things. If you'd like to support KNON and our mishmash of programming, give us a call, 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. What I started saying about the black hoodie with white writing on it is it comes in sizes small through 4 extra large, and it's for a $100 pledge. The red long sleeve T-shirt goes from sizes small through 3 extra large, and that's for a $60 pledge. Patti, I guess you can't wear the T-shirt, but that 4X will certainly fit you.
Don't need a 4X. Usually don't even need a 3X. Just need a little room.
Just a little room.
Just a little room.
A little room. We like to give Patti all the room that she needs, don't we?
I suppose.
972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. And when you call us, as opposed to those other stations that do pledge drives, you're actually calling the station. You're not
David,
calling the call
Is
center.
that a joke about the size of her hands?
Yes.
Yes.
Because
we refer to her hands as her girls.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
I call them
that's
the twins myself. But,
Oh, okay.
Size queen.
This coming week is Transgender Day of Remembrance. For anybody who doesn't know what that is,
This is Transgender Week of Visibility, followed by Transgender Day of Remembrance, typically, and that's held on November 20th each year. And there's more of a movement afoot this year, I think, than any other, is to not just remember, but to maybe do something about it, because the numbers keep climbing. Mm-hmm. I was on a webinar this past week that was done by GLSEN, who does the school climate survey every year. And they've been doing this since 2013. They do it every year. And what they're finding is that the atmosphere for transgender kids, gender nonconforming kids, is generally getting worse, not better, in schools. And attitudes across the country are in some cases getting worse, not better. Our rights have been getting a whole lot worse rather than better. Doctors can legally deny us health care. We have no housing protection, no employment protection. And they're attempting to make it impossible for us to serve in the military or even update identity documents. The word transgender and gender identity are being stripped from Health and Human Services off their websites. And the Education Secretary DeVos and Department of Justice refused to even accept complaints of discrimination from transgender kids in schools. So we have a lot of work to do. And to say, well, gosh, a lot of transgender people are getting murdered and it keeps going up every year. Well, it kind of plays right along with that, is that if our lives aren't seen as valuable or having meaning, we get treated as if we're disposable. And so
it's like they want you all just to not exist.
They want us to go away, yeah. And they're trying to make it to where we don't exist. They're also, and I was talking with UT Southwestern Medical School this week, because I speak to them fairly often, and we were talking about one of the things that the Trump administration is doing, and that is trying to define sex as being very binary, either male or female.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that there are intersex people. We know that there's genetic changes and Klinefelter syndrome and androgen insensitivity, and they're just trying to say if you have a Y chromosome, you're male. If you have 2X, you're female, and that's the end of that.
Mm-hmm.
You are whatever your doctor said you are. And scientifically, that's just not true. But they're also saying that there are only two genders, and that gender identity differences are, we're going to test for those with chromosomes. And I was laughing with the doctors. I said, is there anybody here that does that kind of, has knowledge of genetic testing? Because your chromosomes don't have anything to do with your gender identity, with how you identify as a human being. There isn't a test for that. And it's this sort of metaphysical skepticism that's taking place. Our polite society is based on taking people's word for it. It's like if you tell me that your favorite food is Italian, but I see you eating a hot dog, it doesn't mean your favorite food isn't Italian. It just means right now you're eating a hot dog. I just have to take for word for it. I can't make you prove that your favorite food is Italian, because you can't. And if I ask Patti if you're happy being female, and you say yes, I have to take your word for it because you can't prove it.
True, and we have no problem in this country saying, you say you're Jewish, okay,
Prove it.
Prove it. And it's to me, it's just so ridiculous to to just ignore science, and that's what they want to do. They want to put their hands over their ears and go la 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 la, and wait till it goes away, and hope it goes away. And they do that across the board. I mean, we got an idiot in the White House now who says that because they didn't rake leaves in California, 80 football fields a minute are burning.
Yeah. Well, it also reminds me of the old witch hunts. Well, we're gonna determine whether or not you're a witch or not. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tie this big stone to you, and we're gonna throw you in this lake. And if you come to the surface, you're a witch. Well, you're not coming to the surface, right. So you're dead, but you were innocent. And that's sort of what they're doing. They're creating this witch hunt, and then they want to create a test to kill you, basically.
Yeah, well, too often we're being stabbed and shot and burned to find out if we're transgender. And so something needs to be done in addition to remembrance, in addition to lighting candles and reading names. That's all great, and I think it's good to do that, to recognize people as human beings and their lives having meaning. But, okay, what's the next step beyond that? And that's one of the reasons that I lobby so hard at UT Southwestern, because I go out and I speak, but these are usually during lunch hours or after hours when it's not mandatory, it's not in a class session, because transgender healthcare isn't taught in medical schools, and it needs to be.
One of the things that I think would help is if people just learn that it doesn't matter and mind their own business. I did 2 stories in Dallas Voice this week, and one of them was about this woman named Leslie McMurray. And I talked to her daughter about it for the story. We had a wonderful chat.
My kids are amazing.
And we want to start this by saying, Sarah, your daughter, absolutely loves you. And I know
you're speaking to Katie, right?
Well, she adores Katie.
Yes, she does.
She just
both of them do.
You know, she loves Leslie. Dad, not so much.
Yeah,
and that's how she referred to the person that Leslie was. So if I use that, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm using the term that this family uses.
Or as Oliver Bloomer used to say in a previous Avatar.
And again, same sort of thing. If that's how if that's how you think of yourself. So the way the story started, and I went way off track, but that's okay. The way the story started.
Unusual.
Yeah, I know.
So rare.
That never happens.
So the way the story started was Sarah had originally said at the time that Leslie introduced herself to her daughter was, I wish you had told me that.
It was actually a couple of years. It was a year and a half, maybe 2 years after. It was at a Christmas holiday. And we were just in her kitchen talking one night about other stuff. Because we don't really talk about gender issues very much at all. And we were just talking about other stuff. And then she just out of nowhere said, I wish I would have known when I came to see you in Dallas, and this is back in 2011, that I would have known it was the last time I was going to see my dad.
So that she could say goodbye.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, well, is that grieving? And I've talked to several other transgender people about the idea that, does your family grieve for you? And what Sarah says now is, well, it's not really grieving, because while that personality is gone, while that portion of my life is over, I have friends who lost their parents, and it's not that.
Plus, she likes me better now than she did before, and I don't blame her. But
and Leslie has all the memories of Sarah's childhood and everything that they shared together. So it's not that, but it is a kind of a transition for her to this new parent that she has.
It's like we don't celebrate Father's Day or Mother's Day. We celebrate Transparent Day, and they send me cards and little tchotchkes and things. Yeah. So we just ignore Father's Day and Mother's Day altogether because it just doesn't apply. Because the relationship that we have is parental. It's not gendered, as it were. Because I'm not her mom, but I am a female. I play a female role. But I'm also, I don't play that dad role, and they don't look at me that way.
But you know what, ultimately, I think that's what's most important.
Yeah.
Parent.
Sure.
Not mom or dad, parent.
Yeah, it becomes a hybrid, I think, with trans parents, because I don't fill that role of her mom, and I didn't bring her up as her mom.
Well, and I think the mourning analogy that people often draw, I think it starts out that way. People are anticipating losing, because when I came out to my family, almost all of them at some point had what I call the old crap moment, although I put that much more colorfully. And it was that moment where they went, holy crap, this is real. And there was a sense that they were losing somebody. And I remember having a conversation with my sister, in which I told her, look, I'm the same smart aleck. I'm just going to have cuter shoes. And
like the house shoes you're wearing now?
Yeah, just like those.
Yeah. She thought she was going to have cuter shoes.
And, she laughed, but then later on, she kind of realized that, no, this... In fact, the first time she saw me as me, and I was fully out, she was nervous. She was a nervous wreck until she saw me, and then she goes, wait a minute. This just seems very natural, and you kind of, it moves beyond this sense that you're losing something. I think there's a fear that you're losing something, and then once you actually get to meet the authentic person, you're like, I'm not losing anything, I'm actually gaining something in the process.
But too many families do lose that person.
Yes, because they choose not to accept this authentic person, and they prefer to stay with this facade that all of us have lived with for the bulk of our lives until we transition.
Not that it's a competition, but do you think the adjusting is harder for a child who has a parent that transitions, or for a parent who has a child that transitions?
I think it's probably equal in some ways, harder for children in some other ways, and harder for parents, because one of the most difficult things for a parent to go through is the loss of a child. And so I think their fear is sort of, oh my gosh, I'm losing one of my children, until they figure out that, well, no, I'm not.
Well, I think also, though, it's like when parents have a kid, in that very first minute when that child pops out, we tend to gender expectations for that life of their wedding, their graduation, grandchildren, whatever the case might be, or following in his father's footsteps, or all those kind of things. And so they latch onto those things, and when a child comes out as being transgender, they have to let go of all those expectations and mourn the loss of their son or daughter while welcoming in this new person. But also, I think, if parents really think about it, a lot of the ones that I talk to are struck by just how hard their children's lives are going to be, especially for small children. They're thinking, oh my God, the life that they're going to have to face, because, again, going back to no housing protections, no employment protections, their doctor can now say, no, I'm not going to treat your child, and they do, and they can, and they are. And it just is going to be a very, very difficult life.
And we need to take a
authentic
break,
one.
but you know who it's easiest for is the grandchildren. Because the way Sarah explained it to her children was, some people are born with the wrong outside and they get it fixed. And your grandkids are just, these are my grandmas, and it's just no big deal.
I'll tell
to
you
them.
a cute little story about my youngest on the other side.
Yeah, we need to take a break. Before we go,
That's a
it is
tease,
Pledge
is
Drive,
what they
and we
call it.
do need to hear
business.
from our listeners. 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. One of the ways that you can pledge is to go online, go to knon.org, hit the Pledge Now button, and just a little bit of information to fill out how you want to pay, what your name and address is, and how much you want to pledge. All of the pledge premiums are listed there, so you can get to look at what the different pledge premiums are.
Take
Select
Visa?
what you want.
Take Visa?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Amex? All the biggies?
All the biggies. All of them.
Cool.
And if you'd like to pay with all your cards, which I'm sure Leslie will do, because she just is that kind of pain in the butt sometimes.
But you could put LW, you could put Lambda Weekly, you could put that trans show, you could put anything that
You
might.
should put the Leslie and Katie show.
You put the Leslie and Katie show.
Well, you can't put that unless you explain who that is, because our station manager will have no clue. However,
Don't want to call
Be
us.
fired.
they do ask you to list what show that you're pledging for, and that's important as far as those are our ratings, basically, is when we get pledges. 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. Josh's are standing by.
This is Rollins Gilliland, and I'm listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3, and darn glad to be doing it.
And this is Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. And our guests today are transgender terrorists Katie McSprinkl and Leslie McSprinkl.
Yes.
They're the McSprinkles.
That's how we roll.
Yeah, this is the first Lambda Weekly we've done as a married couple.
Since your
'cause
wedding.
We did. We got married in September.
Congratulations.
Y'all were there.
Yes,
Yes.
we all were there.
And part of an exclusive crowd.
And it was a lovely ceremony. And you know what was nice about it? Your family was there.
Yeah. I wanted to share a little story from Hannah, who's my youngest, Sarah's daughter. Well, she's not the youngest anymore, because
Nope, that's Austin.
we've had a new one since then, but Hannah's 7. So the last time we were in Atlanta, it was before we got married, and our wedding invitation was up on the refrigerator. And so Hannah had not put all the pieces together as to who was who and what was what. So she saw the wedding invitation, which had my last name and Katie's last name. And so she'd always referred to Katie up to that point as Aunt Katie, because we were just kind of dating together, at the time. And
We were living in sin.
we were
Yes, you
living in
weren't
San.
shacking up.
So she went to Sarah and she said, Grandma Leslie's last name is the same as before you got married? And Sarah said, yeah. She goes, well, she's marrying Aunt Katie, so why that didn't make sense that a grandma would marry an aunt. And so she explained.
Great deduction.
Yeah. And also, the name thing. And she goes, well, Grandma Leslie was, she asked her, she said, is Grandma Leslie your mom? And she said, no. Well, who is she? Well, she was my dad. And so she explained, it's like, oh, okay. But then she explained the whole exterior, interior kind of thing. And so she's satisfied with that. Then she asked about the whole thing with Katie. And it's like, oh, okay. So she's fine. So I went to go see them, and I was sitting on the couch, and Hannah jumps up next to me and crawls up in my lap, and she just, almost conspiratorial, she said, I know who he used to be. And I said, yeah?
Are you serious?
She says, he used to be a boy, huh? And I said, yeah, but not anymore. She goes, nope, not anymore. That's the end of that.
But you know what? Kids just understand that.
They get it.
I was in a relationship for about 15 years, and my partner's nieces and nephews were born. I was the one at the hospital when they were born. It was that kind of relationship. But her family was, how are we going to explain this to the kids? The first time one of the kids, he was about 3 years old, the first time he saw me without my partner, he just looked at me and he said, where is your Tommy? And I said, well, he's coming. Oh, okay. It was just normal for him to see the two of us together. It's not hard for kids.
Hate and discrimination is learned.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
taught. And if the parents don't teach it, the kids don't learn it.
Just
and
part
they
of
end
the
up being
family. And
pretty normal people.
And Katie, you're just part of the family. She thought you were her aunt. She just didn't know the relationship. I mean, that's not a discrimination thing. That's entirely.
I think they got the Aunt Katie from me, because I was there one Christmas and they were unwrapping gifts, and I said, just to hand all the paper to Aunt Katie. And it just kind of stuck. So I think I kind of anointed myself as Aunt Katie, but that's where they got it, and it just stuck. So
and it shows that from the very beginning they thought of you as just part of the family.
Yeah, right.
So,
but yeah, I think people sell kids short.
Yeah.
What they'll understand and what they want to understand.
You, and even
it was like, so Gabrielle's 9, and I think we explained to her what a transgender person was when she was 5 or 6, and it was just like, okay. And now it's literally no big deal. She will even point out to me, there's a show with a young woman, I think she was a teenager when the show started. It's called Jazz, I Am Jazz.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Jazz
and
Jennings.
Gabrielle just pointed out, and of course I already knew about it. She goes, did you know she was trans? I go, yeah. She goes, okay. I mean, it's no big deal.
No.
It's no big deal.
It's really not. It's like this much of who I am.
Yeah.
But
well, it makes me think back when Target said they were no longer going to segregate the toys. They were not going to be boys' toys and girls' toys. They were just toys. And
parents
of course,
lost their nut over it.
they were like, "Oh my God, how is my daughter going to know that she's a girl?" I was like, "Really?" She kind of already knows.
Yeah.
no, she knows because at Target the toys are on the girl's shelf, and that's how she knows she's a girl.
Pink for girls, blue for boys.
Yeah. So it's just that same.
Stupidity.
Yeah. I think it's also a projection. The mom and dad are projecting their feelings onto the kids, and that's what they're teaching them. And if it's bigotry that they're projecting onto the kids.
And how many thousands upon thousands of tens of thousands stories where a young person comes out to their parents and they say, oh, we knew when you were 2. Or we knew when you were little.
Steve Rudner, who's the president of Equality Texas, his wife said, now they had twins. One is straight, one is gay. And Lisa says she knew when they were breastfeeding. She
Really?
Just a difference. I just knew, different way they held me, different way. She just said, I just knew them.
And we can watch, home videos of Erin growing up, and and they even catered to her toys. That if she wanted the Rock'em Sock'em robots, that's what she got. And her sister Carol got the makeup kit, and that's what she wanted. And you could just see we play them all in chronological order. They just let her be herself, and I think that's so beautiful. And they didn't know at the time what that she may be gay. That's just Erin.
And also, I want to add, toy play is not indicative of sexual orientation.
No, or gender
not at
identity,
all. Or
right?
gender identity. I know a lot of people freak out if their little boys want to play with a doll. Well, that doesn't mean
Well,
that.
that's what a G.I. Joe is.
Thank
It's
you.
raw.
Thank
But
you.
even then, you think about if a boy wants to play with a doll and learn how to maybe hold a baby, is that
Exactly.
necessarily a bad thing?
Thank you.
I mean, really.
Yeah, I agree.
And Leslie Newman, who wrote, she's written a number of children's books and books for adults. Her best known is one of her first books, Heather Has Two Mommies. She hates dolls. She said growing up she always thought they were creepy, and if she got one, she'd break its head off.
It's okay. Erin was really mad at Carol one time when they were little, and she nailed her Barbie to the wall of the garage.
Wow.
And when we shared with her mom later in life, her mom didn't even flinch that Erin had done such a thing. She's just surprised she didn't know about it.
There's a trans guy, he's a photographer in, I want to say, the Bay Area. And he's well known, although his name is escaping me at the moment. But he also has a transgender sister. So, of course, when they were growing up as kids, he was getting the dolls, and his sister was getting the guns and the G.I. Joes, and they used to switch toys when their parents weren't around. So these two kids knew, obviously, that something was up, and they're like, hey, we'll just switch toys. So kids are much brighter than parents want to give them credit for being. And again, unless the parent is projecting something on that child, it's just okay.
Yeah, it's one of the things that grinds my gears the most when I talk about children that are transgender, because they know in many cases right away now, with the information available and role models and TV and all, kids can point to something that they identify as or with. And so for the kids that are in the Genesis program and even younger, that might be 5, 6, 7 years old and are transgender, the criticism is, well, how do kids know? How do they know? They can't possibly know. And I'm thinking, didn't you? Did you need somebody outside of your circle to tell you who you are when you were growing up? I mean, you certainly didn't know everything, but you knew who the hell you were.
Yep.
So kids know. They don't need you to tell them. And maybe they just need you to stop for a minute and listen to them, because they'll tell you. And if they decide to, whatever this, grow out of it or whatever, then maybe they will, or maybe they won't. But let them explore, because it's really a parent's job to let their kids grow to be their fullest potential. It's not up to a parents to make them live up to whatever the parent's dream is.
And one way that you can help us live up to our potential here at KNON.
Now that you're mentioning that, if we donate enough money, will they fix the sinkhole in the parking lot?
Actually, this building is going through a renovation. They started on this shopping center right
I think
next
they
to...
should start over there, because
Yeah,
the whole
they
thing's
should.
going to fall into that hole.
I think
Yeah,
they
we
should
know.
order a pizza.
Yeah.
There's that pizza company that says
that'll
they'll
come
fix
out?
potholes
Yeah.
Oh,
and put
that's
their name
right.
on
That's
it.
not a pothole, that's a sinkhole.
Well, we were laughing last week because they had put the orange cones in it. And I'm like,
The
that
orange
hole's been
cones-
there for years.
The orange cones have now fallen into it.
So we need the money, and this is Pledge Drive. So
And it is Pledge Drive,
please
but you know
call.
what? Your money's not going to go to fix that sinkhole because the landlord's going to do that.
We
But
still need to pay the
But
rent.
we have to pay the rent. We do have to pay the rent. We have to pay for the landlord's extraneous costs, like fixing a sinkhole in the parking lot. And it really is this huge hole that's right in the middle. Give us a call, though, 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893.
And you can also become a music elite donor by donating $500. And throughout the year, you'll be listed on every event that KNON has. Your name and a guest are just listed.
You get 2 tickets, and you get, most of the events have food. So by the time you go to 3 or 4 events, it pays for itself.
Oh, easily. And there are 40 to 45 events throughout the year that KNON has. So if you would call in to 972-647-1893 with a music elite elite music sponsor, I guess that's what it is.
And what's that number again?
972-647-1893.
That's why they ask us here during Pledge Drive.
Yeah, it's because Leslie's a smart aleck, and she's on the phone right now calling Josh. So, but thank you, Leslie, for your donation.
Of course.
972-647-1893. And seriously, we do need to get a number of pledges in because, and we're close to our goal. We did pretty well the first 2 weeks, but we're not quite there. So we do need to hear from you. We need number of pledges as well as dollar amount. The dollar amount obviously helps pay for all those things, like the rent, like the tower, like the engineering services. All that stuff that gets KNON on the air. What you're not paying for is advertising. You're not paying for big salaries because other than a station manager and a couple of other required personnel, we don't have salaries here at KNON. You're not paying for all of the frills that you get at commercial radio stations and that you pay for at other stations where they do ask for your donations.
That's right. No prize van here at KNON.
There isn't?
No.
Oh, I thought that was. No, maybe it's not. 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893.
I just want to digress for a moment. This past week, the Dallas City Council passed on its consent agenda the legislative agenda for the city of Dallas. And if you're not aware, most municipalities, and certainly large cities like Dallas, have lobbyists that they pay in Austin and in D.C., and they have a legislative agenda, and these are their marching orders to go out and defend the city and push legislation that the city wants and would benefit its citizens. And I just want to share with you something now. We've gone from being very specific on the legislative agenda to something pretty cool, a whole section on social equity. And I want this is the position the city of Dallas takes with regard to the 86th Texas legislature, which begins in January. The City of Dallas will support legislation that enables it to effectively promote the successful inclusion of immigrants into the social and economic fabric of the Dallas community. Dallas recognizes its cultural diversity as a strength and will support legislation that fosters an inclusive vision of Texans for all residents. The City of Dallas will oppose any legislation that discriminates against community members and inhibits the future growth of the city. And I am just elated that this is a full chunk of the legislative agenda.
One of the things that they need to do is keep up on what's Equality Texas worried about.
Well, they've already filed one bill in advance that I know of. It's weaponizing religion, and it's allowing counselors, mental health professionals to deny treatment to people that their deeply held religious beliefs make them not want to counsel or treat.
You know, this is how I always feel about
I don't want
that
their
kind of
conversion
thing.
therapy anyway.
Well,
I don't either.
I agree with that.
I don't want kids to have it.
And I don't want somebody who can't embrace who I am and fix what's wrong or work with me on the problems that I'm telling them I have. I want somebody who's going to work with me in a positive way. I did a story about a year ago about this person who had died, and his friends were burying him up in some small town in Arkansas, and the only church they knew that was in this town was one church, and they said, well, we're not going to do a service for somebody like that, and didn't take the time or effort or have the compassion to say, you know, that's not a service that we would do, but so-and-so at the Methodist church down the street, and I'm saying the Methodist church because the pastor from that church called me afterwards and said, were they taken care of? I would have done it. I mean, he was horrified that this happened in the next town over in his neighborhood.
Yeah, this whole idea of weaponized religion needs to stop, and I think that those that don't believe in weaponizing their religion need to rise up and make their voices heard, because right now, and I've said this at a number of places, including churches, is when somebody says to me out loud that they're a Christian, I immediately put a wall up because I don't feel safe around you. And there have been people that are Christians that have said, oh my God, you shouldn't feel that way. I'm not one of them. Okay, great. Show me and raise your voice against those that are that way that I don't feel safe around.
But these counselors who don't want to treat someone like you, like if I was a counselor, I would say, Leslie, maybe you should go elsewhere. But you give them a name. I'm not good at dealing with this issue. Here's somebody who is. What's hard about that?
Well, here's the difference. The counselors who are true professionals, who are going to say, look, I just don't understand enough about what you're going through. I don't have the experience or training. That's what they're going to do. They're going to say, hey, but I do know somebody, or I've heard this person does. The people that we are talking about, the people that want this legislation, they're not interested in helping you in any way, shape, or form.
They're interested in hurting you.
And the real danger here is where you are in small communities, and perhaps the only mental health care that is provided through county services. And so if you are in a crisis, a mental health crisis, and you end up in one of these facilities, the people there don't want to help you, right. And yet it's their job to. And what the bigots in Austin are trying to do is say, well, you don't have to. And if that person just goes out and hurts themselves because you didn't help them, well, that's okay.
And we need to take a break, which isn't okay, but it is something that we actually always do at this time. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with and Patti Fink.
Easy for you to say.
I know.
He hasn't renew his pledge yet, so we're not going to say his name.
It is Pledge Drive, and give us a call, 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893.
Hi, this is Valletta Lil, and I listen to Lambda Weekly. I hope that you will too.
And this is Knon. This is Knon. Oh, you were playing a CD. Okay. We're just pushing buttons back here. Just ignore us. Well, don't ignore us entirely. We did get a pledge during the break. We'd like to thank Lerone from calling in from Garland. Thank you very much. 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893.
Thank you, Lerone.
You're very welcome.
I'm so glad the mic's back on.
I know. Yeah, that's how it rolls here. You don't pay, you don't speak.
That's right. That's right.
Well, you can speak, you just won't be heard.
Well, we're sharing a mic, so we only have half that mic on.
Well, the sad thing is he borrowed the money from me, and that check is going to bounce. I wrote him, so
Which is why we prefer credit cards.
That's why we prefer credit cards.
972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. We've been saying our expenses here are very low. To pay today's rent, it's a $92 pledge. You're lucky it's a 30-day month and not a 28-day month like February, because then your pledge would have to go up to about $95. But a $92 pledge pays this month's rent, or pays today's rent, and makes a significant difference. But that's how little our expenses are, that kind of a pledge makes a huge difference here at Knon. To pay the phone bill for today, a $70 pledge. And why is our phone bill so high? Because not only do we have the phones in the studio with state-of-the-art telephony, but
people are calling collect to make pledges,
well,
which makes the phone
we have
bill
to
go
get
up.
the signal from here in the studio down to Cedar Hill, and that's the dedicated phone line is the bulk of that cost. Engineering services with a $116 pledge. You can pay today's engineering services. That's for the stuff that gets the stuff from my mouth to the microphone, down to Cedar Hill, up the tower, and out on the air. There's a cost to that. Leron's looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about? You know, Lerone, I'm just running my mouth off. 972-647-1893. That's 972-647-1893. I want to talk about another story I worked on this week that was all over every other news media before I got a chance to write about it, even though the person that it happened to is the roommate of somebody that I work with. And that's a lawsuit that was filed by a trans woman who was arrested for carrying a gun through security or trying to, well, she wasn't trying to, she forgot the gun was in her purse. Why did she have a gun in her purse? Because she was being stalked, like to the point where she had to have somebody escort her to her car. It just wasn't safe for her to be walking around. This guy was dangerous.
Besides, it's her right to have a gun in her purse, so there's that.
There's that.
She was walking through what security?
Love Field.
Gotcha. Okay.
Love Field, airport security. So she was arrested, taken down to Lou Sterrett, where her identification is all in order. It shows that she's a female. They process her and then decide, oh, we need to do some more checking. And just because the judge said that she's female wasn't good enough for the guards at Lou Sterrett, the intake officers. As I was working on this, and you saw the story, it was in the morning news, the way they wrote it, it was like, where's the penis going to be in this story? And, you know, it was written really salaciously. Newsweek's headline on this story was, trans woman in Dallas, blah, 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 and her penis. That's Newsweek.
Wow.
That's Newsweek. So I was writing this story, and as I was researching it, what I found was, this is common, that when a transgender person is taken to Lou Sterrett, they are illegally strip searched. And why do I say illegally? Because Dallas County policy is you are not strip searched without a search warrant or written orders from the sheriff's department. You are not strip searched. And before the show, Ron said...
Before the show, I was, you know, just trying to be fair. I don't know the procedure when you get arrested. I think maybe a lot of people assume that everyone got searched. But you clarified the difference.
Yes, strip search, no. If you're being taken in, she was being taken in for something she's going to be released for in a couple of hours as soon as they arrange bail. And by the way, she was no-billed by a Dallas County grand jury. Another person I talked to, and I talked to 5 people who this happened to, another person, it was a domestic violence. She shot a video of the incident, and because she fought him off by biting him and he had a bite mark on him, they took her to jail. The judge saw the video and said, oh my God, why, this is dismissed. You know, why are you being charged with this? That's the type of incident. A gay man who has long hair. Why? Because his mom died of cancer, and so he donates it to Locks of Love. Terrible thing that he does, right? He got picked up on a traffic ticket, sent to Lou Sterrett, and an unpaid traffic ticket. Went to Lou Sterrett. When he got to see a judge the next morning, cost him $10. $10. He was strip searched. They kept using wrong pronouns. Misgendering. He's male. He said he's male. His ID shows male. And the officers arresting him kept calling him ma'am and listen to her and, oh, we need to strip search her.
Just because he had long hair?
And painted nails.
Okay.
That's the other just because you paint your nails. No, most men don't do that. He does. So what?
So what?
This is so against policy. Lupe Valdez wrote a policy that's a beautiful policy, and it's on the story online. And the name of the story is, what is the name of the story? I have it right here in front of me. Anti-trans harassment at Dallas County Jail. Well, this has prompted County Commissioner Teresa Daniel to open an investigation into this. The problem is not following policy. Now, Katie, you are an attorney.
Right.
Right.
You've seen this.
Yes.
Well, what should be the normal procedure when one
first,
gets arrested?
You know, they should just go through the normal bookend procedures, which I believe is what the policy dictates.
But what are those?
Well, when they book somebody in, they photograph them, fingerprint them.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of paperwork that you fill out, name, address, next of kin, emergency contact, that type of information. So a lot of it is just basic biographical information. And then at some point they see a judge who does what we call an arraignment. part of that process is to set a bond so that you can then get out of jail.
Right.
And so then the judge is advised of the nature of the charges that you have, given a copy of what we call a probable cause affidavit, which is a statement of the arresting officer of what happened. And then based on that and some other factors, the judge will set a bond so that you can then call your family and say, okay, I need you to, my bond is set, please get me out of here. And then in the meantime, while you're waiting to have your family come get you, you're placed in a holding area where, you know, you're out of the way.
What they describe that to me is you're in a holding area and you watch TV.
So just to dispel some myths for people who've never been arrested, you don't get arrested immediately, walk in the jailhouse, and they take your clothes off and put you in an orange suit.
No, usually
that's what I'm trying to get at.
You do change, though.
You do change. Depending upon how busy they are will determine how long that process takes. Mm-hmm. There was a time in the Dallas County Jail, and this was years ago, where it would be 48 hours before you got into a jumpsuit. Mm-hmm. They've streamlined their process a lot. And so now that happens much faster, but on a busy Saturday night when intake after intake after intake is coming in, well, it's like anything else, you get behind. And so sometimes, depending upon what day of the week it is, how busy they are, will determine how quickly they get you changed out of your clothes. They do segregate genders. There's a male holding area and a female holding area. But there's also this federal law, the Prison Rape Elimination Act, thank you, and we just refer to it as PREA, and it basically mandates that all correctional facilities protect at-risk people, whether they belong to a group or as an individual.
And about 10 years later, in 2012, a whole list of procedures were issued in relation to PREA, specifically for transgender people, specifically for gay people, specifically for a lot of other groups too. But a whole list of regulations. Aside from that, in Valerie's suit, just her description of what happened, one thing after another that violated Lupe's policy, one thing after another. Starts with, you call the person by the preferred pronoun. Doesn't matter whether the person has had legal updates of their paperwork, of their identification. If Patti goes in and tells them that she wants to be referred to as she, they refer to Patti as she, no matter how she presents. It doesn't matter. And you know what the point of that is more than anything? There are a whole bunch of violent criminals going through this jail. Why start trouble with somebody just calling me she? Okay. How hard is that?
Well, because here's part of the problem that, again, we talk about the trans community being a vulnerable community. Here you have officers and jailers who have the responsibility, the legal responsibility, based on policy for the sheriff's department and federal law. Here are people who have this responsibility, who are taking it upon themselves to become essentially the brutalizers themselves. They're there to protect any inmate coming in from the true, mean, horrible people that are in jails, and yet then now they're taking the opportunity to become the bully here. And that's what's at play.
Of these people that I spoke to, every single one of them, and they were not together, these were just individuals that I got in contact with one way or another, or they got in touch with me. Every single one of them described it either as a rape or a sexual assault.
By officers?
By officers. That's how they described it. That's how they described it. They were put in a position, this one gay kid, he said he had to strip in front of 5 male officers. Why? If for some reason they had to do a search for this dangerous speeding ticket violator.
Because there's some that'll do body cavity searches at times, and that could be
not without a court order.
Yeah.
Not in Dallas. I mean, other counties may still
Right.
do that, but
That's not our procedure here. And to make it clear, Lerone, when you're processing through, if the reason you were arrested was you were picked up on a traffic ticket, you are not processed the same way as if you were picked up on murder. If you're processed a little differently, if you're going to be put in a cell and not expected to bond out, people who, a gun at left field, domestic violence offenses, those kinds of things, which actually that is a violent crime, but you're going to bond out, they just go to a holding area. You're not assigned a cell and anything else. And they are violating that policy every time a transgender person that they can figure out is transgender comes through. Every time.
yeah, they're just absolutely not following it. And I said it earlier in sort of jest that I said this out loud, but Lippy wrote a great policy. She had a team that put this together. Houston had done theirs. Dallas needed to do one.
And it's even been updated.
And they update it, but they're not implementing it. There's been very little, if any, effort to implement it. And my comment earlier was, well, she was very good at window dressing, because that's all it is right now. It's just window dressing. Hey, we have this policy. Okay, now you have to implement it. And just in contrast to that, as large an organization as the Dallas County Sheriff's Office is, Dallas Police Department is just as large, and they have an active policy, and I actually have video proof that they followed it. I had a client who was transgender arrested. They were still at the scene. They are on the streets. And this male officer approached my client and asked her how she identifies, male or female. And she said female. He goes, okay, I'm going to get a female officer to come do the pat down for you. And even though my client said, well, is that really necessary? He goes, yeah, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. He called in a female officer. When she showed up, he went over and said, I've got a transgender woman. I need to have her patted down. The female officer didn't recoil. She just said, oh, okay. See, that's proper training.
Right. And proper procedure.
And DPD instituted that policy, and they've implemented it, and they've provided the training. There was no problem. The female officer walked over and said, come on out, sweetheart. We're gonna pat you down real quick. Searched her, put her back in. Then they took her down and processed her into the jail. Just another example was I was talking to some interns at the courthouse. They were law students interning for one of our judges, and one of them had been a Dallas police officer. He said he arrested a transgender woman, took her to the county jail. They processed her in, and immediately he noticed they were about to put her in a male holding area. And he said, no, that's not where she goes. And the jailer was, I don't care. That's where she goes. And the officer said, I'm standing here, and I'm not turning her over to you until I know she's going to be safe. Demanded to see a supervisor, and it took a supervisor coming out.
Wow.
And a Dallas police officer had to tell them, hey, that's not proper procedure. And he goes, oh, I guess you're right.
And we are out of time.
That cop.
Yeah. So DPD,
Well, they get it.
they need to have.
Why would
some
you
applause.
when you're arresting somebody for a particular thing, why would you want your case completely screwed up by stupid treatment of the person? You don't do that. I mean, just make it go easily. We are just about out of time. We want to thank Margaret for calling in a pledge, and we have a couple of other pledges also. So I think we did pretty well on this month's pledge drive.
But they can still call, and
they can still call.
Thank you, listeners, for supporting us. If you haven't called yet, it's 972-647-1893.
It's 972-647-1893.
What was that number again?
972-647-1893. And we forgot to thank our lovely ladies. Thank you for coming today.
Your
pleasure.
Always come back.
Okay.
And give me grief before you do. Our guests next week.
Anytime. It's recreational
I know
grief.
that's your job. And our guests next week are from the Teddy Bear Party.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.